The COVID-19 pandemic presented a serious threat to people, businesses, and economies around the world. And leaders had to focus on how they can best protect their people, serve their customers, and stabilize their businesses. During any crisis or disruption, the most trickiest yet most necessary and important action that a business leader must take in that midst of uncertainty and chaos is to find a way to protect the business operations and ride out the crisis to emerge on the other side alive and to retool the business for the inevitable next normal. And in the case of COVID-19, the next normal, or also known as the new normal, we're talking about the post-quarantine market environment. In the case of COVID-19, during the time of lockdown and the quarantined economy, new habits and behaviors were forming in customers, and in many cases, the kind of habits that are not likely to go away after the crisis passes. And the key thing has always been, and it continues to be, to spot which ones are good for you as a business leader and those that are bad for you. And these shifts are characterized by challenges and trends. So you have to ask your question: do you know, or are you paying attention to the big changes and what they mean post-COVID-19? Right? So yes, people will say that COVID-19 is gone, but in South Africa, we're hearing that there's the fifth wave that is coming up. So now the question is, yes, the lockdowns, we're now at level 1, and yeah. So some of the habits during the level 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 have been forming over time, which were characterized by the challenges that the consumers and employees and the supply chain experienced, and other trends that were happening as a result of the lockdown. So now the question is, do you know, or were you paying attention to the big changes and trends that were happening there, and what they mean post-COVID-19 and what they mean now in this post-quarantine market environment? Under any crisis, during any crisis, chaos, or disruption, as a business leader, you need to work urgently to balance dozens of critical priorities. And the two leading questions remain: how can you ride out the crisis to emerge stronger than others in your industry? Right? There is a crisis happening. There's the pandemic that is happening. So now the question is, how can you ride out the crisis to emerge stronger than others in your industry? Right? Are you paying attention to the changes in consumer behavior, changes in business models? Right? And how can you, currently, right now, during this crisis and chaos, how can you ride out the crisis to emerge stronger than your industries? Right? And the second question is that of how can your organization learn through this experience to win in the next normal? So we need to understand that during any crisis or disruption, there are two things that we need to be careful of as leaders. The first thing is we have to focus on riding out the wave, the disruption wave, the crisis wave, the pandemic, the crisis. We have to make sure that we survive the crisis. And then we have to make sure that we retool our business to thrive in the next normal. The new normal is not only going to be, associated with the pandemic, right? We had the 2008 financial crisis, we had the Industrial Revolution. So when it is happening right now, you need to find a way to protect your employees, serve your customers, and stabilize your business operations, right? That's the first thing you need to focus on. The second thing, so that's why you ask yourself, or how can we ride out this wave right now, right? And then the second part of the question now, the second focus would be on how do we now learn right now so that we can win in the next normal, because there are changes, there are trends, the shifts in consumer behavior. Consumer needs are changing, and business models are being changed, are being renewed, right? How can we innovate so that we can win in the next normal, right? For example, one of the simplest thing, what used to be the simplest thing, right? Digitization of business model, digital business models, right? Before, it was so tricky, from experience as a consultant, to have a client that was okay with doing virtual meetings and virtual consultations. They wanted to meet face to face. But COVID-19 came, and people now started warming up to the idea of having Zoom meetings, right? So most people right now, they actually even prefer Zoom. They prefer remote working, right? Because the pandemic accelerated the digital economy, right? So you need to ask yourself, what habits, what trends, what changes happened or are happening during the pandemic as things are settling down, although in other parts of the world things are still rife? What are the things? What are the changes that you need to be adapting to? The e-basket. We see more and more companies, even retailers now, they're now trying to find other ways to get into the online shopping market. Besides only like ordering online, how can you deliver things to customers? Because customers during lockdown, they were accustomed to delivery. You understand? So there are certain habits and expectations, customer expectations, that will not go away. And you will have no choice as a leader, as a business leader, but to adapt to that.